Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making it last.
It's time for another conversation. Welcome to Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. And we have Dr. Laura Sicola. Hope I got the pronunciation of the last name right. She is. I'm going to make sure because I had to condense this. She's an author, leadership. She's an author of Speaking to Influence. She's a leadership communication and influence expert, and she's a podcaster. Speaking to Influence is the name of her podcast, and she's also a TEDx speaker. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Noreen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell me a little bit about your book. I think it's called Speaking to Influence. Tell me a little bit about
Yes.
that book.
Speaking to Influence is all about helping us get out of our own way. If everybody is frustrated that when you're having a conversation with someone, whether it's your spouse, your parents, your coworkers, and you hear those people respond maybe, and you think to yourself, how did you get that from what I said? Or you hear yourself
Mm.
talk, and all of a sudden you go, that sounded better in my head. Or just wondering why you're not hearing yes as often as you want to. This is what that book addresses. How do we figure out, okay, yes, there's lots of factors out there that get in that impede our success in different ways, but what are the factors inside? What are we doing that is sabotaging our own success by the
Hmm.
way that we communicate?
Hmm.
And how do we fix it? Because we can't control anybody else, but we absolutely can control what comes out of our own mouths and how it comes out so that we get better responses and better results.
Okay. Well, the book came out before or after the podcast?
Before the book came out in 2019 and the podcast came out in 2020.
Okay. And how can somebody access your podcast? Because it's a nice segue then into what we're going to be talking about.
Yes, thank you. It is available on Apple Podcast, on Spotify. The video is available on YouTube. So just look up Speaking to Influence or type in my name and it'll come out. It's also available on most of the other typical podcast platforms.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now,
Yes.
we're going to be unpacking how to talk so people want to listen.
Yes. So let's see, where would you like to start with that? Because that's certainly a big topic.
What readily comes to mind when you hear that, though, and then we can always,
A big part of it is just shifting that whole perspective of, are we talking to hear ourselves talk, or are we talking to help the other person receive the message that we need them to hear? Which means then we have to think about what we're trying to convey from their perspective, not from ours.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about that person's, what is their role in our relationship? Is there a power differential? What competing challenges do they have? What time of day is it? Are they tired or hungry or stressed about something? And if so, is it stressed because of something that we did or that has to do with us? What is their emotional state? So starting to think about what the other factors are, and approaching from a perspective of empathy. And I realize that the word empathy is something that can tend to be a little overused. People are tired of saying, oh, I know I need to be empathetic, blah, blah, blah. But it's true, right? As opposed to most people who talk try to educate or inform through the fire hose method of instruction. Open mouth, turn on fire hose, drown the other person in information, and then wonder why they are not just thrilled to agree with everything we say.
All right. So just to somewhat recap, you're basically saying in terms of the receiver, though, because you said there are two things, but we'll focus on the receiver because at the end of the day, if you're trying to communicate a message, it really should be a what the receiver is getting. So it is about the how, the what, and basically then how you then frame the message for them to hopefully get the message that you intended to send. Yes?
Yes.
All right.
Because
so then, go ahead.
Well, the easiest way to think about it is the word communication, what you communicate has nothing to do with what you say. What you communicate is what they hear. So if we...
Sorry.
Yes.
Before you say that again slowly.
Yes.
What?
What you communicate is not what you say. What you communicate ultimately is what they hear. So if we bear that in mind, then we approach with the goal of ensuring that they can hear what we need them to hear, which means we have to the what we say, words that we choose, and how we deliver it, our facial expressions, our body language, the pace in which we talk, the tonality of our voice, all of those things have to be taken into consideration and chosen specifically to enable them to hear what we need them to receive.
I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life.
Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Sicola. I'm a leadership communication and influence coach, and we're here on the Making It Last podcast with Noreen Daly. Today, we're talking about how to talk so people want to listen. Now, a word from our partners.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with zero added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors: Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics, or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-876-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-876-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
Bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. I said, clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is.
Welcome back to the Making It Last podcast with Noreen Daly.
I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life.
All of what you just said, all of that, and as somebody who is in that era, that's a complex process. So for
Yes.
somebody saying, but Laura, that's a lot to
Mhm.
process. How then really can you ensure then that effective communication is taking place?
So we don't want to overcomplicate it because most people
Okay.
are not going to actively think about all of those thousands of levers on the DJ's mixing board,
Right.
if you think about it. But
Right.
we can stop and think to ourselves, okay, let's see, we're going to have a conversation that maybe it's about a topic that's a little sensitive. Maybe it's something we tend to argue about, or we just know that we don't 100% agree on.
Right.
So as soon as you bring that topic up, you know that the other person's guard is about to go up and there's going to be resistance right away. Maybe we need to approach with something like, check your face. Are you walking in already with the battle face on? Before you open your mouth, they're already going to have the wall up. Start with a smile. Start with a hello. Start with something, ask about them first. Or perhaps they know that this is the topic that you're going to talk about. Here's a thought: invite them to speak first. Ask them what their take is on it. And then don't just listen until their lips stop flapping for you to be able to jump in and respond and tell them what you really want to say. Listen actively and try asking 2 clarification questions or seek for more detail on something else that they said to dig deeper into understanding their motivation, their why, their perspective, how they think that would work. And show them that you're truly trying to understand. When they feel heard and understood is when they will then be able to hear and understand. Most people need that order of operations. They can't hear and understand you until they feel like they have been heard and been understood by you. And most people are not willing to flinch and listen first.
In one of the initial things you said initially was the whole idea of even the time of the year, maybe what's happening with them. How important do you think that is?
Huge, hugely. Is it the end of the day when they're exhausted and they're waiting to go home because they need to pick up their kid from whatever lessons, or someone is sick at home and they need to do these, and they would really be much better off focusing tomorrow with an early conversation before the day starts? Are they morning people? In which case, they're always happier in the morning, regardless. Is it 2 o'clock and they haven't had lunch yet? Are they hangry? And now you're going to just delay it that much more? Bring them a cup of coffee, bring them a juice, bring them something just as a social lubricant, as it were, just recognizing that it's late, or invite them to walk with you on and chat on the way to lunch.
Right.
So I don't know about you. If I'm that tired, hungry space, I'm not patient. So we have to recognize little details like that. Is it hot in the office where you are because the air conditioner isn't working or the fan isn't working? Should you offer to perhaps relocate into a more comfortable space where they can exhale and focus in greater physical comfort? When you're not physically comfortable, the logic circuits don't work nearly as well.
Somebody will sit and will listen to this and then say, "Boy, I don't know. I don't know if I can really with everything else that I'm with." It's like it just sounds like just so many moving parts. How will I ensure that I do what is necessary so that they want to listen? It's just right across the board, whether in a work context or in a family context.
Sure. Well, I think the first and most important step is simply letting them know that you're thinking about this, that you've taken their needs into consideration at all, as opposed to, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about it now. I don't care whatever else you have. I can't move forward until we've hashed this out. Well, okay, clearly you've made your needs and desires very clear, and that what's most important to you is that I bend to your will. You couldn't care less about what's going on in my world. You just have to have your way. Is that what you're telling me?
Mhm.
That's what it sounds like. So if that's how we're approaching this conversation, what are the odds that I'm going to be really open to knowing what it is? That this is going to be a two-way conversation, that the courtesy that you clearly are demanding that I extend to you will be at all reciprocated.
Mm.
Doesn't sound very promising to me. So what are the odds that I'm going to be enthusiastic to help you and to give you what it is that you want, when you show no interest in even identifying what I need and want, much less giving it to me? So if nothing else, start with a question like, is this still a good time?
Mm.
How are you feeling today? What are you coming back from? What does the rest of your calendar look like? If it's oh my gosh, I have to meet with the board. I've got these 47 things. We're behind on this, whatever else it is. The baby's sick. Would it be better to meet tomorrow? If it's not something that's urgent, perhaps. Or what would help make this a more comfortable conversation? Would you like to go somewhere else? Just ask. Maybe they'll say, no, that's fine. Let's just do it now. Okay, but you know what? You've shown them some empathy. Offer. Should we get some tea? Glass of water? That'd be helpful. Okay. We've checked a little bit. If they're indicating no, they're ready, then okay, proceed. But you've demonstrated the beginnings with generosity.
Yeah, yeah. You said a lot, but if you had to encapsulate all that you've said in a three-step process, I'm gonna ask the question and then you tell me
Sure.
how to talk so people want to listen.
I think the most important part you said is want. What do people want? What do they need? Ask yourself that first. So, let me see the easiest way to summarize this. First, think about it from their perspective.
Okay.
On this particular topic, what do they want? What do they need? What do they know? What's their
Keep it on it.
background?
Mhm.
So, and approach it from that perspective. Second, when you initiate the conversation, demonstrate to them that you legitimately care about them, about their needs, and double check even little things. Small details can make a big difference. Like, do you, is this still a good time to talk? Or if you hadn't scheduled something, is this a good time to talk? Is there a better time? And maybe checking to see, are they physically comfortable? The temperature of the room. If they need some water, they could use a cup of coffee. Help ensure that they are settled, that they're comfortable. When you're physically comfortable, you're mentally better able to receive. And then think about it this way. Allow them, if it is something where it's going to be a discussion and you know they already have an point of view or a perspective, perhaps offer them the floor first so that they can share their perspective, show an interest in wanting to know their thoughts before you turn the tables and ask them to listen to you. That will make them more interested because people can hear you better and will understand you better if they feel like they have first been heard and been understood by you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think of all of what you said, if nobody gets anything from the conversation, it's at the end of the day, everybody wants to be heard and understood.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing, Laura. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Noreen.
This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making it